Was it even a good idea to just leave the Seraphim, the CP0? You know, like we got Luffy fighting CP0, and it seems like he could have held him off. It seems like Luffy could have single handedly just ran CP0 away, right? Like it looked like he beat Rob Lucci. Like Rob Lucci was passing out at the end of that fight, but we didn't really see like a knockout blow or anything. We just seen Lucci saying he was about to pass out, and then next thing you know, Luffy is leaving or whatever. Was it good the idea to just for Luffy not to just stay there and just try to keep Sentomaro up? You know what I mean, and just fight CP0 and beat all of them. But because now CP0 got the Seraphim, and they could just leave with the Seraphim, and now the world government's way more dangerous than they was. Like, what's up with that? Like, yeah, do y'all think Luffy should have just stayed and fight, or you think it was just smarter for Luffy to retreat?
I mean, Luffy definitely could have taken CP0. Like that's just for sure.
I think
mean,
so.
He clowned on Lucci easily. Didn't take an attack from Lucci at all. But I think it's more of like plot points, like meta reasoning to give CP0 like the Seraphim so they can show up as like opposing, like an opposing faction for when the great battle happens eventually. And that's really the only reasoning I can give to Luffy abandoning the fight.
Yeah, I mean they were pressing him to abandon the fight, so like I get that, and I do agree with the plot, but it's like it just seemed kind of stupid in my opinion. Like Luffy had control of the whole thing. It's like they don't CP0 just didn't seem like a threat to where it's like, go ahead Luffy, you got to get Vegapunk off the island. Like, why get Vegapunk off the island when I could just beat off the people I could just take care of the threat. You know what I mean? And then we could leave. You know, we could leave. Hold on, we could leave with the Seraphim.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how accurate this is. I don't know if this is gonna turn out to be true, but maybe he knows about this whole warship thing with the Marines, with Kizaru and his fleet. But who knows? If he knew about that, that would probably give him a good enough reason for wanting them to leave so soon.
If who knew?
If Sentomaru knew.
Or Sentomaru.
If Sentomaru knew about the possibility of this island getting attacked by the Marines.
I mean, if he knew, but he didn't like say anything.
I know.
You know, I mean, that's the question. Like, who knows that Kizaru is on the way? You know what I mean? Is like Kizaru on a mission from somebody, or was this like something that Kizaru was like, "Hey, I'm coming through later," so you know.
Well, I mean, if they have knowledge of CP0 on the way, I wouldn't see why they wouldn't know about Kizaru on the way.
Did they know about CP0 coming on the way?
I mean, with Shaka saying, "I'm going to die today," and them knowing that CP0 was on the way to try to kill him.
Did he say, I'm going to die today or I'm going to die soon?
He said soon.
Because to me, that's not necessarily a confirmation that he knew that CP0 was coming that day. To me, that's more of a confirmation that he knew that it's more saying like, the world government's going to want to kill me soon, so I'm gonna die.
Well, it'd be more like with the conversation that happened with Akainu with Vegapunk, or with Akainu saying, "Oh, so Vegapunk like caught wind of our plans or whatever," with CP0.
Yeah, but that could just be more of a deduction type thing, right? Because Vegapunk, I would assume as Vegapunk, I would realize that soon as my services are no longer needed to the world government, especially me being who I am, someone who knows probably way too much, that once the world government didn't need my services anymore, that they would try to dispose of me. Like, I feel as though if I was in Vegapunk's spot, I probably could have deduced that myself. You know what I mean? Like, just knowing how the world government operates, right? How they just
Right.
get rid of anybody who could potentially be a threat, even if you haven't done anything yet. The fact that Vegapunk knows as much as he does, I would think that Vegapunk just kind of had an idea, and he probably knew about it. He probably always had this idea that one day the world government would try to like get rid of him once they got everything they needed from him. You know what I mean? So based on that, I could just see Vegapunk saying, "Look, I just had this feeling that I'm no longer needed to the world government, so they're gonna kill me." I don't think he knew CP0 was on their way. Maybe though, because they was bringing S Bear though, so maybe he knew they was
Yeah.
gonna bring S Bear. But that would be the reason why I think he knows that CP0 is on their way, because they told him they was bringing S Bear. So
That he got leaked an information because before they arrived at the O'Hara chapter, he asked Luffy to help him to escape because he's a dead man. I don't think like he was like it
but
was all
again,
part of his plan, but
Cube,
I think it was leaked.
I think that was
I think it was leaked like somebody told.
again, Cube. I think that's his fourth sight, right? He knew that the world government was going to eventually kill him, and he seen an opportunity with Luffy showing up to be like, I could survive and escape with this guy. You know what I mean? I don't know if again it could have been a leak. Yes, I'll admit that though. It could be a leak. Maybe Vegapunk knew.
Yeah, but I agree with what you say as well. Yeah, he's a smart guy. He had a protocol prepared for the situation.
So also, wouldn't he have foresight with knowing of like how the Marines deal with a Yonko threat with like the whole sovereignty shit? That a higher power would be on its way above CP0, like that.
Mhm.
So it would be fair to assume that he would be able to deduce that an admiral was coming as well.
I don't know, cause again, like Luffy showing up, I don't think he had that planned or anything, right? Like I don't think he predicted Luffy showing up when he did, and then when Luffy did show up, how does the world government learn that Luffy is on the island? Right? Like
They learned through CP0.
yes, but again, CP0 showed up later. Like when Luffy showed up, I don't think he was like, "Oh, the world government is going to discover you're here." Like especially if he's not the one telling the world government that Luffy is there. Nobody that works for him is telling. I mean, even though somebody could leak information, but like he didn't know that the world government was going to catch wind of Luffy being there as quick as they did until CP0 showed up and told the world government. But I mean, before
But he would have
CP0
already known CP0 was on his way because of Esper, right?
because what?
So he would have figured, oh, eventually it's going to come out.
Possibly.
So then a higher power would be coming as well after they find out a Yonko was there.
But that's going with the idea that Vegapunk knew that CP0 was bringing S Bear. That's going with that idea.
It's all connected.
But I'm saying I don't know if that is the case. I don't know if he knew CP0 was showing up when they did. Because it's not like he said like, hey, CP0 is coming soon. You know what I mean? It's not like he made a point that the world government would, like anybody from the world government was going to be showing up eventually. You know what I mean?
What if it's Esber? What if like he has because think of it. What if he's like not a tracker or something, like he knows where all his different inventions are, and he saw Esber was coming to Egghead, so he did the juice from there, and it would explain that he did not know it was CP0 because it would make sense.
Why didn't he prepare for CP0 before they showed up if he knew they were showing up? Why did it take for CP0 to show up until it's like, oh yeah, CP0's here, let's do something? It's like once CP0 showed up, they was kind of like a little panic mode. You know what I mean? They was in panic mode. You don't get in panic mode expecting somebody.
I got a question.
I do agree. I think I was gonna say that I most likely I would say that I do agree with you both that it sounds like a mistake, even though like he was clowning him, so he could have taken care of them and then leave. But I do feel like now, that we've seen at the end of Wano with Green Bull, they were able to measure his strength. I think they were able to sense that, with their Haki now level. And so he realized if he wants to get everybody out safely, it better be safe than sorry. Because I do feel like he does feel the threat.
Who, Vegapunk?
No, Luffy.
Mm,
That's why he would have maybe like he would have because Rob Lucy could take care of him, but maybe he felt like maybe he doesn't know exactly who's coming. But it's same thing in Wano. They were able to measure the strength of Green Bull and they were relaxed, even though he was an animal.
yeah, but I think Luffy knew he was in control of that because he was dominating their strongest fighter.
I think Luffy left because of the thing we see in the next panel.
Well, he left because they was rushing him. He left because they're like, "Hey, we gotta go, Luffy. Hey, come on, let's go. Let's get Vegapunk out of here. We gotta go." So it's like, if I'm Luffy and I'm having fun fighting, and y'all tell me to leave, I guess we gotta go. You know. I mean, I would have just me personally, I would have allowed Luffy to handle it. It looked like he had that whole thing in control, and I would have let him beat up CP0 and run him out of the island, and then leave. You know, then we could have left. So the world government don't keep coming. Yeah. But I would have done my best to try to keep the Seraphim out of the world government's hands ultimately. Like, that's kind of my point. I feel as though if I was Luffy, if I was Vegapunk, I would have tried to keep the Seraphim out of the world government's hands instead of just trying to get Vegapunk out, you know. Cause you giving them like, bro, Vegapunk talking about they the strongest beings. I mean, come on now. Like, yeah, if that is the case, they're gonna be a threat eventually. You know what I mean? It's like inevitable for y'all to have to cross paths with these Seraphim. But maybe by then Vegapunk will have a countermeasure for him. You know, maybe if he meet up with Mads, they come up with like some countermeasure.